Have you ever met someone who felt like destiny but never became yours? You didn't chase them yet. They appeared at the exact moment your soul felt empty. The connection felt ancient, familiar, almost sacred. Conversations flowed without effort. Silence felt safe, and for a brief moment, life made sense. But then, something strange happened. Distance appeared, timing failed, circumstances turned against you, and suddenly the person who awakened your deepest emotions became the one you could never truly have. Carl Jung believed these encounters are not accidents. He called them encounters with the unconscious. Moments when the psyche sends a messenger disguised as a lover, because sometimes the universe doesn't send someone to stay. It sends someone to transform you. The painful truth is this. Some people enter your life not to be your partner but to awaken parts of you that were sleeping for years. And the heartbreak you feel is not rejection, it is initiation. Jung warned that the most powerful relationships are often unfinished ones because completion was never their purpose. Their purpose was awakening. When you meet someone you cannot be with, your mind searches for logic. You blame timing, distance, commitment, fear, or circumstances, but psychologically something deeper is happening. You are encountering your own soul through another person. Jung called this projection. When you fall deeply for someone very quickly, you are not only seeing them, you are seeing hidden parts of yourself reflected back at you. The qualities you admired, the emotions you felt, the intensity that shocked you, were signals from your unconscious saying, "This is who you are becoming." That is why these connections feel magnetic, almost supernatural, because they bypass logic and speak directly to the psyche. You feel seen in ways no one has ever seen you before, not because they completed you, but because they activated you. The universe sometimes sends a person who mirrors your potential rather than your future, and when that activation is complete, separation begins. This is where the pain starts. You wonder why something so real could end so suddenly, why someone who felt perfect becomes unreachable. Jung believed that the psyche resists transformation, and loss is the catalyst that forces growth. When the connection breaks, your consciousness expands. You begin questioning your patterns, your wounds, your desires, your identity. You start evolving, and here lies the paradox. The person you thought you lost was actually the doorway to finding yourself. The universe uses emotional intensity to break old psychological structures, because comfort rarely creates transformation, but longing does. That unbearable ache you feel is not weakness. It is psychological rebirth. Many people spend years trying to reconnect with that person, believing closure lies in reunion. But Jung argued that closure rarely comes from another person. It comes from integration. The moment you stop asking why they left, and start asking what they awakened in you, everything changes. You realize they were never meant to stay forever. They were meant to introduce you to a version of yourself you had never met before. And the reason you cannot forget them is because your soul recognizes the transformation they triggered. Some connections are not romantic stories. They are spiritual lessons disguised as love, and the universe sends them precisely when you are ready to evolve, not when you are ready to settle. The first stage of this experience is fascination. You feel pulled toward them without understanding why. Jung described this as the awakening of the anima, or animus, the unconscious feminine or masculine energy within you. When someone embodies traits your psyche lacks, attraction becomes intense, almost obsessive. You believe they are special, different from everyone else. But what truly captivates you is the psychological balance they create inside you. They carry qualities your soul is trying to develop: confidence, emotional depth, courage, vulnerability, passion, authenticity. Being around them feels like becoming more alive, and this aliveness convinces you they must be your destiny. But destiny does not always mean permanence. Sometimes destiny means encounter. The universe introduces you to someone who expands your emotional world, then removes them, so you must cultivate that expansion alone. This separation forces individuation. Jung's term for becoming your true self, without separation. You would remain emotionally dependent on the mirror instead of embodying the qualities yourself. That is why these relationships often end right when feelings deepen the most. The psyche withdraws the projection, leaving you face to face with your own unfinished inner work. You begin replaying memories, analyzing every word, wondering what went wrong. Yet nothing truly went wrong. The connection fulfilled its unconscious purpose. It awakened longing, revealed hidden wounds, and exposed emotional patterns you were avoiding. Many people confuse unfinished love with failure, but Jung saw unfinished love as transformation in progress. The universe sometimes removes someone because staying together would stop your evolution. If they remained, you might cling to comfort instead of growth. You might build attachment instead of identity. So the loss becomes necessary, painful, but necessary. And slowly you begin understanding that the person you cannot be with is often the one who changed you the most. Not because they loved you perfectly, but because they revealed your depth. And this leads to the most haunting realization. The reason you still think about them is not attachment to the person. It is attachment to who you became when you were with them. The confidence you felt, the openness, the emotional intensity, the hope. Those feelings belong to you, not to them. The universe simply used another soul as a catalyst. And once the awakening began, their role was complete. But the story does not end with loss, because Jung believed the second phase is even more powerful. The phase where longing transforms into self-discovery. And this is where most people misunderstand the universe's intention. After the separation, something strange happens inside you. The relationship may have ended. Communication may have faded. Life may have moved forward. Yet emotionally you remain connected. You replay conversations, remember small details, imagine alternate endings, and wonder why your heart refuses to let go. Carl Jung believed this lingering attachment is not about love alone. It is about unfinished psychological integration. Because when the universe sends someone you cannot be with, it activates unconscious material that had been hidden for years. And once awakened, the psyche cannot return to its previous state. You begin noticing changes within yourself. You think deeper, feel more intensely, question relationships more honestly. Suddenly superficial connections feel empty. Ordinary attraction feels weak compared to what you experienced. This is not because that person was perfect. It is because they opened a psychological doorway inside you. Jung explained that certain people carry symbolic meaning. They represent an inner archetype your soul has been searching for. When you meet them, your unconscious projects meaning onto them, transforming a human being into a symbol of completion. And symbols are powerful, because they bypass rational thought and speak directly to emotion. This is why you feel the connection was rare, irreplaceable, almost mystical, because psychologically, you were not only loving a person, you were encountering your own deeper self. But here is the paradox. Jung emphasized, the stronger the projection, the less sustainable the relationship often becomes. Because no human can permanently carry the weight of another person's unconscious expectations. Eventually reality interrupts the fantasy. Differences appear, fears emerge, circumstances complicate the bond. And what felt destined begins to dissolve. Many people interpret this as tragic timing, but Jung saw it differently. He believed the psyche withdraws projections once growth begins. The universe removes the mirror, so you must become what you once admired externally. In other words, the love you felt was real, but its purpose was transformation rather than possession. This is the stage where longing becomes painful. Because your conscious mind wants reunion, while your unconscious seeks evolution. You may try to reconnect, hoping to recreate the emotional intensity, yet something feels different. The magic cannot be forced back into existence, because the psychological lesson has already begun. And this creates confusion. You ask yourself, if we were so connected, why couldn't we stay together? Jung would answer. Because not every meaningful connection is designed for permanence. Some are initiations into a new phase of identity. The universe introduces a catalyst, triggers emotional awakening, and then removes external dependence so inner development can continue. During this period, you may experience what Jung called the dark night of individuation, a phase where loneliness intensifies, self-doubt appears, and emotional wounds resurface. Old insecurities rise to the surface, fear of abandonment, fear of unworthiness, fear of being unseen. These emotions are not random. They are psychological material asking to be healed. The person you cannot be with becomes the emotional key that unlocked them. This is why the pain feels disproportionate. You are not only grieving a relationship, you are confronting parts of yourself you previously avoided. And the universe allows this confrontation because transformation requires awareness. Slowly, something profound begins to happen. Instead of asking why they left, you start asking why the connection affected you so deeply. Instead of chasing closure from them, you begin discovering closure within yourself. You recognize patterns in your past relationships, emotional habits you repeated unconsciously, ways you abandoned your own needs to maintain connection. Jung believed awareness of these patterns marks the beginning of individuation, the process of becoming psychologically whole. And here comes one of Jung's most powerful insights. The person you cannot be with often represents your future self, rather than your future partner. They embody qualities your psyche wants you to develop independently. Perhaps they awakened courage, emotional honesty, creativity, ambition, or vulnerability within you. When they leave, those qualities do not disappear. They remain as seeds, waiting to grow. But growth requires separation, because if they stayed, you might rely on them to feel complete, instead of becoming complete yourself. The universe removes the external source, so you must cultivate the internal transformation alone. This explains why unfinished love often becomes unforgettable. Completed relationships provide comfort, but incomplete ones create evolution. The unanswered questions force reflection. The absence forces self-discovery. The longing pushes you toward deeper meaning. Many people spend years believing they lost the one, yet Jung suggested a different perspective. The one who awakened you was never meant to be owned. They were meant to reveal your capacity for profound connection. Once you recognize that capacity belongs to you, not to them, healing begins. You stop romanticizing the past and start integrating its lessons. You realize the universe did not punish you by separating you. It prepared you for relationships aligned with your authentic self, rather than unconscious projections. Prepared you to love without losing identity. Prepared you to recognize connection without dependency. And gradually, gratitude replaces confusion. You understand that some souls enter your life only long enough to change your direction forever. They disrupt your emotional patterns, challenge your beliefs, and awaken dormant parts of your psyche. Their departure is not abandonment. It is completion of a spiritual assignment. Yet one final stage remains, the stage most people never reach. The moment when you finally understand why the universe chose someone impossible instead of someone permanent. And this final realization changes how you see love, destiny, and yourself forever. There comes a moment, sometimes months later, sometimes years later, when the emotional storm finally quiets. You are no longer obsessively checking messages, no longer replaying memories every night, no longer asking the universe why things unfolded the way they did. And in that silence, something unexpected happens. Understanding arrives, not as a dramatic realization, but as a calm inner knowing. Carl Jung believed this moment marks psychological integration, the point where pain transforms into wisdom. You begin to see the connection differently. The person you once believed was your unfinished love story becomes something deeper. They were a turning point, a psychological initiation, a necessary disruption that changed the direction of your life. And suddenly you, Understand the hidden truth. The universe never sent them to stay, it sent them to awaken you. Before meeting them, you may have lived on emotional autopilot, accepting less than you deserved, hiding parts of yourself to maintain harmony, ignoring inner desires because familiarity felt safer than growth. Then they arrived and everything shifted. You felt more alive, more emotional, more aware. They challenged your identity simply by existing in your world, and that awakening could never be undone. Jung described this as individuation reaching maturity. When the psyche integrates previously unconscious aspects of the self, you become psychologically stronger, more authentic, and less dependent on external validation. The heartbreak that once felt unbearable becomes the catalyst that forged emotional independence. You realize something profound. The love you experienced was real, but its purpose was never possession, it was revelation. The universe allowed you to feel a rare depth of connection so you would understand what your heart is truly capable of. Without that experience, you might have continued accepting shallow relationships that never touched your soul. This is why people you cannot be with often remain unforgettable, not because they were perfect, but because they introduced you to emotional depth. They expanded your standards, your awareness, your understanding of intimacy. They raised the emotional threshold of what you recognize as real connection. And here lies Jung's deepest insight. The universe sometimes withholds permanence to protect your evolution because, if you had stayed together, comfort might have replaced growth. You might have built attachment before building, identity dependency before self-knowledge. So the universe does something paradoxical. It gives you a glimpse of profound love, then removes it, forcing you to develop internally what you once experienced externally. The warmth you felt, the courage you discovered, the emotional openness you experienced, all of it was training your soul, preparing you for a future where love meets wholeness rather than longing meets incompleteness. This is the moment forgiveness begins, not only forgiveness toward them, but toward yourself. You stop wondering whether you were not enough, because you finally understand that separation was not rejection, it was alignment. Two souls met at a crossroads of transformation, fulfilled a psychological purpose, and then continued on different paths. And strangely, the pain softens into gratitude. You appreciate how that connection forced you to grow, how it made you confront fears you once avoided, how it taught you to value emotional authenticity over convenience. You recognize that some people enter your life, not to be your forever, but to guide you toward it. Jung believed that once integration occurs, the psyche no longer searches for completion outside itself. You begin attracting relationships differently. You no longer chase intensity born from emotional wounds. Instead, you seek resonance, stability, mutual growth. You stop confusing chaos with passion, or longing with destiny. And perhaps the most surprising transformation happens here. The person you thought you would never forget slowly becomes peaceful in your memory. No bitterness, no desperation, no unfinished tension, only recognition they were a chapter, not the entire story. You understand now why the universe sends someone you cannot be with, because some souls are catalysts, not companions. They arrive to awaken dormant parts of you, to break emotional patterns, to prepare your heart for a deeper level of existence. Their role is temporary, but their impact is permanent. This realization frees you. You stop romanticizing what could have been, and start embracing what is becoming. You recognize that destiny is not about holding on to one person forever. It is about becoming the person your soul was meant to be. And once you become that person, love no longer feels like longing or loss. It feels like alignment. One day you may meet someone new, and something feels different. There is peace instead of anxiety, clarity instead of confusion, presence instead of chasing. And you realize the universe did not deny you love before it was teaching you how to recognize the right form of it. The person you could not be with was never a mistake. They were preparation for a love where you no longer abandon yourself, where connection does not require suffering, where intimacy grows from wholeness. rather than emotional hunger. And finally, you understand Jung's hidden message. The universe does not always give you the person you want. It gives you the experience your soul needs, because real destiny is not about who stays, it is about who you become after they leave. So if you are thinking about someone you cannot be with right now, wondering why fate brought them into your life only to take them away, remember this: the universe was not breaking your heart, it was opening it wide enough to hold a future you could not yet imagine. Some people are not meant to walk beside you forever, they are meant to awaken you, change you, and quietly step away once your transformation begins. And when you finally accept that truth, the pain turns into power, the longing turns into wisdom, and the story you once called heartbreak becomes the moment your real life truly started. Asterisk.